Hi, my name is John Kauf. I'm the Senior Product Manager at Weil-McLain, and I have Jeremy Tucker.
Hello.
Who's going to show us how to disassemble the SlimFit so it's manageable for retrofit applications. First of all, the SlimFit is our Weil-McLain condensing high-efficiency boiler that is very narrow and is fully assembled. It has a total width of less than 33 inches, and it can be moved through any door in a mechanical room. The outside panels can be easily removed, and as you can see, those panels are overhanging. When removed, the total width is less than 29 inches. SlimFit is perfect for applications such as retrofits because it can be also split in two parts, and the heavy part is probably around 50% of the total length of the boiler, and it's on wheels, so you can easily maneuver the SlimFit around the tight corners or small elevators. So in this short segment, Jeremy is going to walk us through the disassembly process step by step, and he will start by showing you the tools that are needed for this process. What do you think it's going to take? How long is it going to take from start to finish to disassemble the unit?
A rough guess would probably be about 30 minutes or so.
30 minutes?
Yeah.
And how many guys? Is it a single person task or two?
Most of it could be done by one person, I would say, just to make things easier for the one guy or female doing it. Two, to do the final lift off for the top frame. It would make it a whole lot easier for somebody to hold it on the other side.
Okay. But if you were by yourself, you probably could do it too.
Yeah, you'd be capable.
Okay. So we'll start the process now, but can you talk about the tools that are needed for this task?
Okay. From left to right, I've got a socket attached to my right angle. It could be to a ratchet, and it's 18 millimeters. Next to that is just a 18 millimeter wrench. Then next to that is a 13 millimeter socket. Again, can be out in the field with just a ratchet. I've got a right angle for that as well. Then over next to that is a 5/16 socket for the sheet metal screws. Then we've got a Phillips screwdriver with a matching bit for that. Then next we'll have a ratchet with the 9/16 socket. Then a 4 millimeter Torx, 1/4 hex, and then a drill to go along with your sockets. And that would be about it.
Okay, so we have one panel off. What's the first step?
The first step would be to remove the rest of the panels off so you can get to the wires and start from there.
Okay. We need to remove all the panels, I guess?
Yeah. Alright, the very first thing you're going to want to do is do a rundown and disconnect any wire that's attached to the top frame. That would be even your igniter. You want to remove your hoses. So the pressure switch. The wire to the gas valve and gas pressure switch. To the other side of the flame sensor, your supply and return sensor, and your flow temperature sensor. Then you'll need to grab your Phillips, disconnect the ground wire from both your flame and your igniter. Number one was just to remove all panels. including the back two and the center post here. We're not going to remove these quite yet. They're also helping support the top frame while we do all of the other disconnections that we have to. But second step will be to disconnect all the wire harnesses, including your air pressure switch, and we'll just get right on to that. First, I'm going to remove the hoses connected to my air pressure switch, one to the venturi and one to the bottom of the block. Get that out of the way. Next, I'm going to go to the igniter. Then down here, while we're standing here, and go ahead and unhook this gas valve harness and to my gas pressure switches right here. Pull them out of the way. Alright, then we'll come over here to this other side right here. The top return and bottom supply sensor and flue temperature sensor. Alright. Then our flame sensor and the ground wire. Alright, while I have this screwdriver in hand, I'll grab this other ground wire that's connected to the top jacket. And the block temperature switch. Okay, now to the back side. Alright, step number 3 would be to disconnect right here at the gas pipe running out of the back side of the gas valve where it's attached to the venturi. It's four bolts with nuts on the back side. This is where you're going to use the 4mm Torx with a drill or a ratchet if you've got the attachment for that, or the adapter. We'll get right to it. I usually just hold the nut with my hand on the back side and spin it right off. Pull that straight out. Alright, step number 4, we're going to be removing these bolts. It's 4 of them that are connected to the bottom bracket right here that's also screwed into the top frame. We're going to remove these bolts with our 13mm socket. I'm using a right angle, but a ratchet will work just fine right here in this application. We'll get started. Alright, step number 5, we're going to be disconnecting these posts. It's being held in by 4 sheet metal screws. They're hex. I'm going to take it out with our 5/16 socket. whether you have a manual all-in-one or if you've got a ratchet with a 5/16 socket, that's what you can use. So here we go. At this point, before I remove this last screw, this is where it would be beneficial to have a second set of hands, just to help support it, especially with the smaller sizes. There's a bit of a gap between the blower and the top frame, and it does have a tendency to want to slide off once there's nothing else supporting it. So
no, I'll be glad to help. So since this is a 1 million BTU with 5 sections, another person is beneficial to have. On the larger units, especially on the 9 section, 2 million BTU, you could do it by yourself.
Essentially, the blower will reach up and touch the bottom of the top frame. So.
Okay. And what I'm doing right now is I'm actually pushing the top portion down so it doesn't flip over.
Yeah. All right. And here we go. Just make sure none of your wires are being in a bind. You're going to be taking it your way.
Okay.
And it's just going to slide and lift because you got to slide it out from under. All right. It's going to slide just a little bit to clear this this air box right here. All right. This is at the point where we're going to do the top frame lift off. It's probably the most challenging portion of this whole disassemble and reassemble. What's going to happen is we're going to just pull it and lift just slightly, and then it should lift off easy. So
you can probably pull it towards you and lift it.
There we go.
Got it.
And as you lift off, make sure that everything's disconnected and removed out of the way so nothing's being hung.
Okay.
We're going to be disconnecting this U-bolt or C-clamp that's running over the gas line on the inside, and you can see where the bolt comes out in 2 different locations, right here and right here. And you're going to be using your 9/16 socket with ratchet and loosen it up. You don't have to remove it completely, just loosen it about probably halfway. We're going to be doing 2 separate things. Right here on the top, there's 2 bolts with washers. You're going to be using your 13mm socket to take these 2 bolts all the way out, as well as on the bottom side of this frame, it kind of overlays on the main portion of the frame. There's also 2 more bolts, one here and one on the other side, that we're going to also remove with the same 13mm socket. So let's get started. Now once you remove these, the gas valve and gas line is completely free. And we'll start on the 2 bolts at the bottom. Now, let's get the second one. Alright, and with these 2 bolts, removed, we will now remove the bottom, I call it a skirt, but the smaller portion of the frame, we'll remove that. And once we remove that, the gas valve and gas line will pull straight out. Pulling the frame out, you have to lift up and pull out to you. If you don't lift up, you're not going to get much of anywhere. It's got hooks right here on this bent sheet metal that fits into those slots. It really locks in once it goes down to the, to level out with the rest of the frame. So you need to lift up and pull out. And then once this is out of your way, okay, before you pull the gas line straight out, we'll need to remove this push-in fit. And just right here, it's got a flared out blue hinge, and you just kind of push that in, pull straight out with the hose. Alright, now we're just going to pull the gas line straight out. Alright, we're on the last step of the disassemble. I'm getting ready to remove the blower and venturi and this adapter plate from the mixing tube. I had to opt out and grab a wrench because of just lack of clearance. So it's still a 13 millimeter, but just lack of clearance. Didn't think I'd be able to get a socket on there, so I'm just gonna loosen it instead of tighten it. And these are lock nuts, so it might just take a minute. If you have a deep well 13 millimeter, you might be able to get the other three, or you could loosen it up a little bit and then get it with just a standard 13. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Before we remove the last component, I wanted to mention that this 1 million BTU has a unique feature, which is a silencer. And we added the silencer to keep it extremely quiet. There is no noise. The only noise that you can hear is when the fresh air intake passes through the grill. Virtually no noise from the blower, no vibration from the unit. So we can proceed with removing this. And this is pretty much the end of the disassembly process. As you can see, the unit is now very short comparing what it used to be. There's one element remaining, which is the mixing tube. And this is only 9 inches long, And for you to remove it, if you needed, you would remove the 3 bolts, and those nuts are 18mm nuts. And this comes off, and then you need to hold the burner, and you probably would need to thinking about replacing the gasket, if anything. Anything else that needs to be done? Is this still a one-person disassembly at
Once
this point?
it gets to this point, it will require 2 people, because when you start the reassemble process, currently the blower, the mixing tube is holding the burner in place. It's supporting it. But when you remove this, if you need to, you will have to have somebody else kind of helping support it while you tighten this down to make sure that the burner doesn't fall out or slide out of place.
Okay. And by the way, this step is also recommended when you perform your annual maintenance, which would include the cleaning the heat exchanger. And on the front of the heat exchanger, you have the clean-out plate. So we recommend on an annual basis to remove the clean-out plate. We provide the cleaning tool. You clean the heat exchanger, and then you would remove the mixing tube with the burner and put the hose and just flush it down to clean it completely. So this probably completes the disassembly of the unit. What would you say it takes on average? How long should it take?
30 minutes, 45 at the most, I'd suppose, if you're doing it, start to finish.
So for someone who is experienced, has done this many times, probably 30 minutes, especially if you have the right tools. If you're doing the first time, probably plan on having 45 minutes
I could
to
see it
disassemble.
pushing a little longer if you've never done it before.